Hello, everyone, and welcome to this presentation on mindfulness-based approaches for suicide. My name is Diane Bigler, and I will be your presenter for this training. So a lot of us work with clients that are suicidal, and when we get beyond the assessment phase and are looking at actually beginning to treat clients and intervene with their suicidality, we look for treatment options and we look for ways in which to support clients. And mindfulness is emerging as one of those treatment interventions that can be especially useful for suicide. So that will be our focus today. Here's the direction that we're going in terms of this particular topic. We're going to look at the dynamics and patterns of the suicide mode, provide rationale for the value of mindfulness, and then also describe some specific mindfulness-based approaches for use with suicidal clients. So a few important considerations here as we are getting started. There are several common characteristics of suicide that we typically see, and here are some of the things that as clinicians we want to be really looking for and identifying. And these are going to be very instrumental in when we look at the application of mindfulness interventions in particular. Typically, we see individuals that are suicidal have a sense of unbearable psychological pain. So they may describe this as suffering or pain, or they just can't take something anymore, but they feel as though there's this psychological pain that they are suffering from. And so then it seems as though suicide is the only way to relieve that pain. A sense of isolation from others. Now, sometimes we can see that people who are suicidal still are socializing with others and interacting with others, but typically we see that there is going to be some isolation from others. Lack of belonging, feeling trapped and hopeless, or a burden on others. We call this in the suicide world thwarted belonging. So this is just feeling as though the person doesn't belong somewhere, maybe within their family, within their peer group, within society. Also, we see that perception that death is the only solution, especially when the individual is temporarily not able to think clearly. This could be blinded by overwhelming pain and suffering. It could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol, etc. We also see excruciating negative emotions. This includes shame, guilt, anger, fear, and sadness. These are the most common symptoms, or I would say feelings, that we see associated with suicide when we talk with suicidal clients and when we look at suicide notes. These emotions really serve as the foundation of self-destructive behavior and can come from any source. We also know that there are thoughts regarding suicide, but it's very important as clinicians to tap into the emotions of what your suicidal clients may be feeling. Now, I know you're seeing this percentage at the bottom, 93% and 7%, and you may be wondering, well, what are these percentages? These percentages actually come from Zero Suicide. If you're familiar with Zero Suicide, they have done a lot of evidence-based work, and it's actually shown that it's very effective in mitigating suicide and ensuring that clinicians are not only assessing suicide correctly, but also engaging with the client correctly, which is very, very important. So part of what has come out of their research is talking with people that have at least one prior suicide attempt. And typically what they find in these conversations and when they gather data, the Zero Suicide Research Committee, is they found that 93% of people that had one suicide attempt did not want to die. So their goal in attempting suicide was not to bring about death, but it was really to relieve suffering. Only 7% of people that were surveyed with at least one suicide attempt have said that they actually wanted to die at the time of their suicide attempt. So when I heard this stat years ago, I thought it was very impactful. It was to me as a clinician, because I thought this means that the overwhelming majority of clients that are suicidal do not want to die. They actually want to live, but they want to relieve their suffering and these difficult emotions. So as a clinician, that gives me a lot of hope, and hopefully it gives you all a lot of hope that we can intervene with suicide. And it's important as a clinician to not make the assumption that if a client is suicidal, that means that they want to die. So if there's this window there where a client is feeling overwhelmed, feeling sad, feeling shame, etc., that perhaps there are some opportunities to help this person cope and manage and address these feelings and discover reasons for living so that they don't see death as more of that escape option. So we have a lot of ability here once we've identified clients that are suicidal to, again, not assume that they want to die, but to explore if they do want to die or if they're experiencing some of this thwarted belonging, hopelessness, shame, sadness, anger, etc. So always remember that 93 and 7.